downloaded the Buckeye Leafcast with your host, Andrew T. Evans, with special guest, Chris Stefanick.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Another edition of the Buckeye Leafcast. I am Mr. Andy Evans, rocking the other side of the microphone, about to talk a big Buckeye win in the Big Ten Championship Game over the previously fourth-ranked and undefeated Wisconsin Badgers. Ladies and gentlemen, that's right, you're damn tootin'. Talking about the intergalactic Buckeye fan himself, Mr. Chris Stefanick.
It's good to be champions, Andy. It is good to be champions.
It is grand to be champions. Second Big Ten title now for a one Urban Frank Meyer, Mr. Stefanick. Taking down, like I said, fourth-ranked, undefeated Wisconsin on Saturday night in Lucas Oil Stadium, 27-21 to win his second Big Ten title. And the 2017 Ohio State Buckeyes are officially your Big 10 champions. And Chris, I know you're going to get into them X's and O's that you love to do, and so we'll just go ahead and get on in them, because I'm sure you're going to break down some good things and some bad things that you saw out of this performance on Saturday night, particularly two guys, and I'm sure the defense as well, because a hell of a game they played, Chris. So stats, total yards, Buckeyes, 449 overall, 211 through the air. All JT Barrett. He was 12 of 26, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Buckeyes also rolled up 238 yards on the ground thanks to an MVP performance out of true freshman J.K. Dobbins, Chris. 17 carries, 174 yards, busted off 2 fat runs, 77 yards, and another 55-yarder. JT led the team, 19 carries, 60 yards. He had a touchdown. Mike Weber, not the greatest game, maybe of his entire career. 4 carries, 6 yards, also turning the ball over with a fumble. Buckeyes, in fact, 3 turnovers total in this game, Chris, but the Buckeyes defensively, unbelievable job, stymied Wisconsin's rushing attack, Chris, 60 yards for the entire game, including that true freshman phenom that they have for Wisconsin. Jonathan Taylor came into the game with over 1,800 yards. Buckeyes held him 15 carries, 41 total yards for the night, a 2.7 yard average, and 0 touchdowns. I mean, what the heck, dude? Buckeyes came in. We both were wrong. That's all I got to say is, Chris, whenever I am wrong about something, I will admit it, and never am I happier to ever be wrong when I predict the Buckeyes to lose and they prove me wrong and win the football game. So what did you get out of this Big Ten win, man? I mean, are you happy to have been proven wrong as well? Obviously you have to be, correct? What a stupid question to ask.
So when I watched the game, you know, I really thought coming in that Wisconsin was better than that, based on their record, based on the statistics, like number 1 defense in the country and all this stuff.
Yep,
and I know the schedule was weak, but I'm like, yeah, you know, they're still playing quality, you know, Big Ten teams and the like. Wisconsin's really just not that good. I mean, the gap between Ohio State and Wisconsin, I think, was huge. I mean, they just did not look like the same quality of players. I'm looking at the team, and I'm like, you know, here's always a good test. It's like, how many of these players would start for Ohio State? And yeah, there were some, but there was not many. Not many at all. I mean, I don't know that, you know, Hornibrook, for example, is even like the 3rd string quarterback for Ohio State.
No,
you know what I mean?
Not at all. Not at all.
So I was just watching it, and I'm like, the only reason the game was close was because Ohio State made so many darn mistakes. I mean, I counted up. I wrote down several of them, and I didn't catch them all, but I wrote down several. I mean, my God, there's got to be 10, 20 different major mistakes here. And it's like, I don't know if you're a tennis fan, but in tennis they had this thing called an unforced error, which means basically, you know, you had a little lob coming to you, no problems at all, and you just hit it out of bounds. You know, it wasn't like your opponent didn't do something really good. You know what I mean? It wasn't like the credit didn't really go to your opponent the issue was you just messed up.
Yeah,
so
I can think of a couple of those too, but I want to hear what you have to say. Absolutely.
Right. So I mean, like the best example of this would be like false starts. It's like, come on, dude, wait till the ball snaps. That has nothing to do with the opponent. You just you wait till the ball snaps, but it goes beyond that. So like, what was it? First play of the game or something? Felt like it. Maybe I guess I'm thinking Iowa, but the pick six by JT, not quite the first play of the game. But
yeah, no, that wasn't that was Iowa, not this game. But yeah, that happened pretty early on.
So I mean, you could say that you got to give the Wisconsin Badger credit for catching that ball and running it in. And to an extent, you're right. What it was is that he just told JT should have never threw the ball. He just missed the guy and he hit him right in the hands. How many players in Division I football can make that play? Heck, how many players in Division II, Division III? How many high school players can make that play?
Yeah, the answer would hope quite a few.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got two hands, you can make that play. Heck, even if you don't, you could probably make that play. Like there's a few players out there that can do it. That was an unforced error. That was not. I mean, you don't really have to give Wisconsin credit for that. Kicking it out of bounds on a kickoff, that kind of thing. Those sort of things.
That's just become normal to do that.
Right.
I mean, seriously, Ohio State at least once, maybe even twice a game, has to kick the damn ball out of bounds every time.
Yeah, I mean, the muff punt that Hill had.
Hill had, yeah.
No, that one didn't hurt them, but that's another one that could have. Had the ball not bounced his way, it was basically the only reason it didn't hurt Ohio State was because of luck, because it hit the ground and kind of just fell right in front of him rather than squirting to the side.
Yeah, luckily
they
came
been
right back to him. Yep.
But it was just one after another. I mean, and, you talked about the 3 turnovers. 18 of Wisconsin's 21 points came on turnovers.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, the defense, thank God for the defense. The defense was amazing. You take out 18 points, obviously that's a stellar performance versus the Western Division champion, right? But these mistakes, and it's not like this was like a fluke. Oh, we got lucky. They had a game where just these fluky things happened, and they managed to get out there with a win. Because you kind of typically every year you have one game where like a bunch of mistakes pile up. Well, no, this has been consistent. I mean, the fluke game was when they didn't have mistakes, which was MSU, and you see what happens. This team, when they're not making mistakes, can play with anyone. But that's just not who they are. They make mistakes. And it's not just like one guy that you say make this guy do laps or pull him, bench him. It's around the board. Offense, defense, special teams, different guys making mistakes. And different kinds of mistakes. And it's just at this point, it's who they are. But going back to my initial prediction, I didn't think the gap talent wise was as far as it was. When I saw it, I'm like, wow, okay. I don't think I would have predicted that Ohio State was going to lose this game because, like I said, had Ohio State just made even just a few less mistakes, not even because there was like 20 mistakes, they just make 5 or 6 less of these mistakes, they blow them out. Let alone cut that list in half or 3/4 or God forbid they play a flawless game. You're probably looking at another 59-0 kind of scenario, right? I mean, the gap was big enough that it could have been another one of those had they played a flawless game like they did 2 years ago. So I just didn't realize, so I was wrong. I didn't realize that I guess the West is just that bad, and it also just makes you, want to throw up a little bit more when you look back on that Iowa game. It's like, hi God, how did this team lose? It's one thing to lose to Iowa. I get it. It's one thing to lose, but
right.
To get the doors blown off.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We'll talk more about that later when we get into our playoff preview show. So
absolutely.
So what were your thoughts on the game?
So I'm with you. If you had told me, Andy, Ohio State's going to turn the ball over 3 times. And still win the football game, I would have told you you're crazy because there's no way that Ohio State can turn the ball over 3 times against this stiff Wisconsin defense and be able to win the game. And, of course, JT throwing a pick 6. I think the fact that Ohio State, I do give Wisconsin a little bit more credit I think, than most, maybe even you as well. The fact that they came out and played great defense in the second half. Now, maybe some of those, the reason that Ohio State didn't score as much were self-inflicted wounds. We talk about penalties and how many mistakes that they make. And quite frankly, they were, I don't want to say well under their normal 9-some penalties a game, but they had 5, so almost half as many penalties as they normally commit. Wisconsin actually had 6 penalties in the game. The Badgers with I don't think did they turn the ball over? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they had 2 interceptions, one there at the very end when Hornibrook did his best John O'Corn impression and just launched it down the field to nobody, and I can't remember who was there with the interception. I think it was Damon Webb. But then, Denzel Ward playing great cover defense on that fade route. They tried to hit, Hornibrook tried to hit his receiver near the goal line, and Ward was just right there, played it perfectly. Speed killed, dude. Yeah, that's where Ohio State separated themselves in this win, that as far as the talent level was concerned. And had there not been some self-inflicted wounds, shooting themselves in the foot a couple of times, that pass that Barrett horribly overthrew to Johnny Dixon near the end of the first half that should have been 28-10 going into the locker room rather than 21-10. That was big in a way.
Sure.
The overthrow to KJ Hill at one point. There are different things you could, what if this, what if that, I guess. But
lots of drops, several. But they had a drop to Victor on a third down. So instead it's a 3 and out. They had a drop to Mac on a third down. Mm-hmm. So same 3 and out. Then they had that one you mentioned for Dixon that would have been a touchdown.
He was wide open.
Yeah, and had to punt. So it was, those drops are unforced errors. The missing wide open guys was 2 other deep balls. JT had guys wide open and just totally missed them. That's an unforced error.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Do we attribute that to his knee? Because JT was efficient enough, obviously, to get the job done. Once again, he was 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 19 carries, 60 yards, and a score. So he accounted for all 3 of Ohio State's touchdowns in the game. However, passing, he was 12 of 26, and he threw 2 picks, including 1 for 6. Was that? I kind of felt like I still wanted to see an 85 to 90% JT Barrett out there just from a mental aspect. I felt that Barrett gave them the best chance to win as far as having that mental edge. However, do you think the outcome would have been a little different had Dwayne Haskins been in there? Do you think he hit some of those passes that JT misses? I mean, it's hard to say what if, right? But
right. I mean, it's possible Haskins goes out and has just this worst game of his career. You just never know when that's going to happen. Yeah. But assuming we get an average Dwayne Haskins performance, let alone the performance we saw versus Michigan, I think definitely Haskins plays better than what was a pretty terrible game from JT. I give the guy credit for being a warrior. 6 days after surgery to go in the Big Ten Conference Championship game.
That's what I'm saying.
And lead them to a victory over the number 4 team in the country. Yeah. An undefeated team. Yeah. I mean, that's legendary. That's legendary stuff.
It is.
They said he was doing 15 hours of rehab a day.
I know.
Andy, I'm not a math major, but I believe that only leaves 9 extra hours for stuff like, sleep.
Sleep, eat, study. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, 15 hours of rehab. That's insane. So, that's dedication and, credit to him. But at the same time, was he the player that gave Ohio State the best chance to win? Frankly, I'm not sure that 100% he's a player that gave Ohio State the best chance to win. That's been a question mark all year, let alone a hobbled version of him. And now granted, when we talk about the Haskins versus JT debate, I'm pretty convinced at this point that the offense is better with Haskins in there. A lot of that is based to small sample size, what we saw versus Michigan. Very, very small sample size. I get it. But we've also seen what happens with, when you go from JT to Cardale Jones, which is essentially the exact same style of QB. And it's not 100% of the change coming from just having a different QB. It's the offense is different. Meyer calls different plays. He was asked about it after the game, and he said basically it's the exact same offense and just certain plays I call with a different frequency.
Right.
Well, yeah, Mike Tyson might have a jab that he throws in here every now and then, but if he's like throwing haymakers all the time versus one where he's sitting back and just trying to pick you apart with jabs, it's like fighting a completely different fighter, right? The frequency of the plays you call makes a huge difference in what the offense comes out looking like. And it just looks like a completely different offense when Haskins is in there or when Cardale is in there. And it's a better offense, especially when you've got stud running backs like Ezekiel Elliott, freshman phenom J.K. Dobbins, and even Mike Weber, although I feel bad for Mike Weber. That's a pretty rough game, especially because, there's people saying he may come out. He's already been at Ohio State for 3 years. He's been passed by somebody who's got more eligibility than him. And, so he's never going to see, by the time JK's gone, he'll be JK's third year, Weber will be a senior, so he's never going to get a chance to get that starting job back, barring injuries. And running backs have a really short shelf life. So looking at production, you'd say, oh yeah, of course Mike Weber's going to be back. But noting that he's never going to get the starting job again and running backs have a really short shelf life, there's an argument to be made to say, dude, just go, But after a stinker like that, now I don't know, So,
well,
to go back to my point, to my mind, looking at what we got, it was a mistake putting Barrett out there. Maybe, because Urban's loyal to JT, you start him and see how it goes. And when it's clear he's not really getting the job done, you pull him and you've got the excuse of it being an injury. And then you don't look back. You'd be like, oh, he was injured, so I took him out. And then it's like, no hard feelings. Nobody has to sit here and analyze, oh, JT got benched,
Yeah, well, I think if you're going to bench a fifth-year senior, captain, 3-time Big Ten quarterback of the year, it better be for a damn good reason or he's hurt, like against Michigan. Of course, he didn't get benched against Michigan, but he certainly didn't come back in the game after he left. To pull JT out in lieu of a redshirt freshman. Yeah, look at what JT's done, and I think you have to reward people for their loyalty, for their undying devotion, and whatever else. And I think that's what JT has given Urban Meyer in this football program, is that undying love, devotion, and loyalty. And so Urban obviously not only rewards him because of that, but because he is a damn good football player too, and will win you football games.
Now, I agree with that if we're talking about where everything else is equal. If you get a toss-up, you're like, oh man, these guys are pretty much equivalent, but the one guy has been loyal, he's been a leader, he's been there time and time. Okay, then you reward that guy. But if it's hurting the team, if you're hurting the team, I don't think you choose that.
Yeah, but see, I don't think JT Barrett has been hurting the team that much to where bringing in Dwayne Haskins is going to be this vastly huge difference. I really don't. Mm-hmm. You do? You feel that Haskins is that much better head and shoulders over Barrett, that he would make that much of a difference? I don't think he would.
I look at like almost 3 quarters of play or 2.5 and 14 points versus Michigan. And then Haskins comes in and 4 drives, he gets 2 touchdowns and 2 field goal attempts. It's just, you never punt when he comes in. Small sample size, I know, but it's not even just like the production, the results. It's like the look on the field. The look on the field was just better when he was throwing it. The offense looked in rhythm. The defense looked like, holy shit, how do we stop this? And it's really reminiscent of the offense has never looked as good as it did when it had Cardale Jones in there. And I think that magic can be captured again with Haskins, but I don't think it can be with JT. And maybe if they called the frequency of the plays the same way as they do when Cardale's in there or Haskins is in there, maybe it could be captured with JT. I kind of doubt it because we see how he misses guys over and over on deep balls. And that was part of that magical run with Cardale is Cardale was just hitting bombs. But, and I don't think that JT's going to do that, but maybe, if he was given that every week, the offense would be just as good. I think it would definitely be better if they called that style of offense with JT. For sure, it would be better than running the damn quarterback all the time.
Well,
but I think the real magic is you get a guy who can actually hit those plays, and then the defense is like on their heels. They don't know whether to stack the box. They don't know whether to try to take away the deep ball. They're screwed.
All I can think of is the whole comparing Dwayne Haskins to Cardale Jones, and then talking about Cardale's magnificent run there at the end of 14. Throughout 2015, we've had virtually the same offense with the exception of Devin Smith at wide receiver. And I remember that offense floundering throughout 2015 when Cardale was the starting quarterback. Now, the one argument could be made, or at least two, that A, they didn't have a great receiver who could blow the lid off a defense like Devin Smith, as well as Tom Herman was not there anymore, and we saw how awesome Tom Herman was from the beginning when he started with Urban in 2012 to ending and giving them a national championship. I remember there were some games where you and I were complaining about old Tommy Herms. And then by the end of the season, we're, Tom Herman's biggest cheerleader. And you could definitely tell that difference with the offense between Herman and Warner from 14 to 15. So I do get what you're saying. I think that, yes, Haskins, when he comes in, he definitely looks like a stereotypical pocket passing quarterback a la a Cardale who can stand in the pocket, launch balls downfield. I think he does throw a better ball, a more accurate pass. Don't get me wrong. But I guess I'm just saying there's also aspects to the offense that Urban likes to run that Dwayne better get a handle on and run a little bit better, or else they are going to be in trouble at times, and that's the read option. And there's no doubt that JT is a much better read option quarterback than Dwayne. Dwayne looked scared to actually keep the football in that Michigan game. There were several runs he should have kept it and busted off, 8, maybe 10 yards or something like that. And instead, he allowed the running back to take it and, got bottled up a couple of times. Nonetheless, hey, Ohio State won the game. Maybe coulda, woulda, shoulda had Haskins been in there. Does he hit Johnny Dixon wide open at the end of the first half? Maybe. Do they come out and kill Wisconsin and make things, I don't know. It's tough to say. But, getting to your, point about Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins, your thoughts on the true freshman's play? 174 yards on 17 carries. Didn't get in the end zone. Almost did on that 77-yard run. And Mike Weber, interesting point about him leaving for the NFL. I'll get to that in a second. But, the Badgers had never let they let one guy the whole year, one single rusher, rush for over 100 yards in a game. That was against Nebraska and Devine Ozigbo. And, this was the best rushing effort that a opponent had put up against Wisconsin. So, talk to me a little bit about JK, and then also your thoughts. And real quick, you can just say yes or no after you give me your breakdown on Dobbins. Is Mike Weber ready to go? I asked him in the locker room after the game. You can go if you want. Are you ready to go? He basically didn't say anything. He said his dream as a little boy growing up was to play in the NFL, and he's basically going to see how the postseason game, at the time they didn't know whether they were going to the Final Four, but now, basically what he said is got to see what, his bowl game looks like, and if it's good, he might be gone. Is he ready to go? But first of all, give me Dobbins, then let me know what your, opinion of Mikey Weber is.
Yeah, I thought the rushing disparity in this game was one of the big storylines. So Ohio State 238 yards rushing, Wisconsin 60. Ohio State 5.7 yards per carry. 5.7 yards per carry, Andy. Wisconsin 1.9. This was a Wisconsin team that likes to pound the ball, right? So, we're not playing like a basketball on grass kind of offense here. That was huge. And the offensive line played great in this game. They were blocking really well. They were protecting really well. I mean, that was another thing that just kind of pointed to the poor game that JT had, is he had all day back there to throw and still put together one of his worst games as a passer. The offensive line was just blocking. I barely remember any plays where he was pressured. I mean, I'm sure he was once or twice, but it was he had, for the most part, I remember several times him just being back there all day. So great to see JK when he got the MVP, giving all the credit to the slobs. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude, excellent point. And that was something I really didn't bring up. I mean, the fact that Wisconsin leading the Big Ten, Chris, in sacks, as well as leading the Big Ten defensively in sacks allowed. Their defense, 0 sacks on the night. They had 2 tackles for a loss for a whopping 4 yards. Ohio State, 3 sacks for 16 yards, 5 tackles for loss for 18 yards. So the Hogs up front, you're right, man. Excellent point. They played one hell of a football game.
Yeah. And this is, the offensive line, the transformation from last year to this year. So basically what we've got is we've got Demetrius Knox in place of Billy. Basically what we have is Demetrius Knox in place of Billy Price, because Billy Price moved over in place of Pat Elflein, and that was pretty much a wash. They both have been playing great. Demetrius Knox has been playing pretty good, and what we don't see from Demetrius Knox is a bunch of false starts, which is, as great as Billy Price was as guard, he was good for like 2 false starts a game. It was just obnoxious.
He was still making false starts this year at center, for Pete's sake.
And not to mention snapping the ball over JT's head, another unforced error.
And he's still a Remington Award finalist.
Yeah. Blocking, he's amazing. And that guy, I tell you, when he goes to the combine, he might just set the record for bench press. He's going to be elite. He's going to be one of the best guys at the combine for bench press. If stories are to be believed from what happens, in the training facility there at OSU. But the big difference being at right tackle, we had one of the worst offensive linemen, and that I can remember, possibly the worst first season for an offensive lineman that I remember in my entire life for Ohio State, in Isaiah Prince. He's been grading out. I don't know if you follow Pro Football Focus, but Pro Football Focus is the site that they grade every single player, every single play of every single game. I don't know how the hell they do it. Both professionally and like Division I football, they somehow do it. And then they've got these grades available. He's grading out as the best offensive lineman on the team for the year, and including had one of the highest grades versus Wisconsin. But for the year, though, it's not just like with this. He went from being their worst offensive lineman maybe ever to being the best offensive lineman on what looks like a pretty good offensive line for Ohio State right now. They're playing really well. So that's been just a phenomenal transformation. And talk about somebody who might be on leave early for the NFL alert. I'm really hoping Prince comes back for another. But
when would you have ever thought those words would have come out of your mouth? I hope he doesn't leave early, given the way that he did. What an auspicious start or inauspicious start for Isaiah Prince, and now. The rhetoric is, boy, I hope he comes back.
Yeah.
What a transformation for him, which is good. Great to see. Absolutely.
But going to your question on, speaking of going early, of Mike Weber, so for me, it really comes down to where are you going to come out? If they say undrafted, then, or like 7th round, 6th round, I probably come back. If they much higher than that, I'm probably going to go, because he's, like I said, he's not going to start ever. Barring injuries, and the shelf life for running backs, you're one hit away, and they don't play very long. So that would be one feather that he could put in his hat. Is that he doesn't have a lot of tread on those tires. He's only been in school 3 years, redshirted one of those years, and was a backup the other. So he only has 1 full year as a starter. Pros are actually going to look at that as a bonus, that this guy doesn't have a lot of tread on his tires. he's going to run a pretty phenomenal 40 time. I'm thinking it's going to be sub 4.5, I would think, based on what we've seen in those where he's pulling away from defensive backs on some of these long runs. So that's going to get the NFL scouts drooling. I mean, he's not going to go in the first 3 rounds based on his production and some question marks of injuries, you know, with missing his freshman year and then coming out with a bad hammy to start this year. But I think in the top 5 rounds, I'd probably do it if I'm him.
See, here's what's crazy is that before the last few games, if you had told me that Mike Weber was thinking about leaving after this year, I would have been like, you're dumb and that's stupid. But now having seen him, that he's 100% healthy and seeing that breakaway speed that we had heard so much about and it finally coming to fruition, I'm with you. But here's the thing. Okay, if a true freshman unseats you and you just had a 1,000-yard season, does he have the opportunity to come back next year and beat J.K. Dobbins out for a starting spot? If he has a legitimate shot at doing that, which, quite frankly, if he's 100%, I really think he's got an opportunity to beat J.K. out and become the starter again, then come back by all means. Get one more year because I truly don't think he's ready to go in that regard of just being 100% healthy and combining that with experience. Does that make any sense? It probably doesn't because of the fact that, and I get it, a 1,000-yard rusher, only the 3rd freshman rusher to go for over 1,000 yards in OSU history. Now he's got number 4 sitting with him right now in the same backfield. Why the hell not go? And I guess if he can get, some good feedback from the NFL scouts and say, yeah, dude, you could be a 2nd, maybe a 3rd, as low as a 3rd rounder, and that's as low as you'd go. Maybe I do go then. Maybe I do because, yeah, if anything else, Chris, and nothing less, he's definitely still going to be splitting time with J.K. next year. There's absolutely 100% no doubt about that. So even though he might get the start, he may not still be the man. If he comes out and he has a good game against USC, I think he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, the thing you need to consider is the decision to go to the NFL is not, can he get better if he comes back? Does he have some growth to do? Maybe that's a part of it. That's a variable in the decision, but it's a pretty small variable. There's a lot of other things that go into it, which it's more like, where are you going? Like if you're going in the 1st round, I don't care if you're raw, like extremely raw. Like think Malik Hooker, who had just played 1 year as a starter at Ohio State, but and before that, hardly played in high school. Before that, was a very raw. He was a basketball player. Yeah, he would have grown tremendously had he come back, but it would have been absolutely the wrong decision to come back to Ohio State. You just don't do it based on do I have some room to grow if I come back to school? That's it's part of the decision, but it's a really, really small piece of the decision, to be frank. So I just tossed that out. I mean, when you look at it's like where are you going to go? How much can you improve your stock by coming back? And like the injury concern, you're always like one injury away from losing it forever, from, blowing your chance to have millions of dollars. So if you're not going to improve your stock that much, and I just don't see him at beating out JK. I don't. I mean, it's going to take an injury. The best thing that Mike could hope for if he came back is to be the dual starter, which is probably what he would be if he came back. He'd be listed on the depth chart as being a starter along with JK, and they roughly split the carries. That's about the best he's going to get. He's not going to get the ball all to himself. And
no.
So, I'd say if you, like you said, if it's top 3 rounds, I'm gone. Yeah. 5th round, 4th or 5th round, actually 4th, 5th or 6th round, I'm probably like thinking hard about it. And I'd be kind of on the fence. I would have to just meditate on that for a while, but. And
4th and 5th round. If I'm Mike Weber, boy, that is some serious thinking to consider. Anything lower than 5th round, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go because I think he is a better running back than that. And at that point, he would need at least one more year to brush up. And I do think that if guys come back, they have an opportunity to improve on their game, get 1 year older, more mature, and honestly improve their draft stock. Sometimes they can hurt it, though. They can. Some people say Cardale hurt his when he didn't come out after 2014. So at any rate, there you go, Mr. Stefanick. That is our Big Ten Championship Game recap, as well as throwing in a few extras there for you folks. Before we get off the microphones, I would like to let people know that, yes, you said it earlier, reiterate, we got a college football playoff discussion. We're going to let you guys know whether we feel Ohio State got snubbed or not, and give a little prelude into the Cotton Bowl, which I know we'll be doing one of those shows here pretty soon as well, Mr. Stefanick. But before we get off the microphones, anything you'd like to tell the fine folks out there where else they can find a little more Christopher Stefanick in their life?
Sure. So I do a personal development podcast called Choice Conversations. You'll find me at choiceconversations.com. Come on over and I will help you to improve your life in all areas, be it relationships, your finances, your peace of mind, finding your purpose in life, that sort of thing. choiceconversations.com.
Awesome. And I know they can check you out on your Facebook page. You do a lot of inspirational live videos for everybody out there. And I know they can get at you on Twitter, too, at Choice Convo, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, sir.
There you go. The intergalactic Buckeye fan himself rocking the microphone, talking a little OSU football. We are going to be back at you guys here in the next couple of days to talk a little college football playoff once again, let you guys know our take on whether the Buckeyes got snubbed in getting into the Final Four. This edition of the Buckeye Leafcast also brought to you by Christie's Cleaning Services, LLC. It's not clean until it's Christie clean. Be sure to visit her Facebook page at Christie's Cleaning Services, LLC, and Columbus Wired, us fine folk giving you your premier source for sports in and around the Central Ohio area. Come check us out at columbuswired.net. So there you go, Mr. Stefanick. We're going to talk some college football playoff here very soon, but until then, let's leave these folks like we always do. OH.
Oh.
Go Bucks!